So for my first number, just before we get started, can you put your hand up if you live in a neighbourhood? So are you like really rich and live on a yacht or something? Like, if you live in a neighbourhood and live in a community, can you see what I'm trying to do here? You know, come on, folks. Thank you for putting your hand up, even though you didn't want to. I really appreciate that. And I didn't get a job on a cruise liner, which is why I have to do this. So we're going to talk about embedding your workspace in the neighbourhood today. And there is, whatever size type of workspace you have, whether it's a co-working space, a neighbourhood workspace, a flexible workspace, a maker space or anything like that, my argument is it really serves the local community and local economy. And you can be a big shiny glass thing, or you can be a little mum and pup shop, as we heard about later. It's a really important thing. There's a term, civic infrastructure, which I think is a bit hard to get into, but there's a direct relationship between your local authority and your local community recognizing the value of your building in that neighborhood. So when Jane goes in to see the government and lots of MPs know what a workspace is, that is much easier for her than saying, I met this bloke called Bernie who said something about neighbourhoods being important. So as we're listening to this is the lens I'd like you to listen to this through, is MPs and government understanding the value of a workspace is integral to how we articulate what's going on. So in order to get into that, I'm going to introduce one of my favourite people on the border of Essex, Miss Karen Tate. I would like a much bigger round of applause for that. This lady is phenomenal. From her tragic roots, Mr. Tom Ball. And I want a big enthusiastic clap because he's right at the back of the room, Adam from Runway East. Keep clapping, folks. You know, how hard you clap is a level of indication of your commitment to your industry, okay? So, Adam, Tom, and Karen. That's it. I was just buying some time to open the questions on my phone. So we're going to get right into it, folks. Karen, could you tell me, why is it important to buy from people locally than other those big internet people?
I haven't really got a solid answer for that, Bernie. But
I've got it written here. You told me in the podcast.
I'm a nice person.
Let me rephrase it. Who do you buy from in your local area and why?
Oh, so I think on the answer to that question, we don't use Amazon at the residence. We try very hard not to use Amazon. Not that I've got anything against Amazon, but I like the residence to give back to its local community. And by that, I mean all the people that we buy from for our services, our products, comes from within Hertfordshire or Essex. I actually live in Hertfordshire.
I know. I said the border of Essex on purpose. I could have. You know.
Well, I can be an Essex girl today. So in that, I mean, the coffee beans come from Saffron Walden and they're locally roasted. The cake is made by the local cake maker. Our supplies for our meetings, the local IT firm, the staff that we employ. There's only 3 of us. Let's not get carried away, Karen. By that I mean that I feel like the residence is a force for good in the community in which it sits. So that like our spend that we need to operate goes directly out into that. And by that we're setting a really good example to the people that live within our space, our other members, by going, oh, can you make me a birthday cake? I'm getting married next week. Can we have oh, coffee beans. Oh, they look nice. Can I have some of those? So we put them in the tuck shop. Like we have a tuck shop. Do you know what a tuck shop is? Yeah, I'm from up north. So by that I mean I'm like showcasing other people that are around in our local community and that we can elevate them as well as us.
That's great. Adam, if you were going to buy cake, what would you do in Runway East?
We buy quite a lot of cake in Runway East, and normally I eat it, to be honest. We do. I mean, look, it's not that easy sometimes to get everything locally, and I think something that we've really tried to do is be conscious of where we're getting stuff. I'd say going back years, we were pretty bad at Amazon. I mean, it's so convenient. And like, there are still many situations where, you just need to get some, you need to get some light bulbs. You need to get them quick. And you might not use Amazon, but you might use, I don't know, B&Q or whatever it is. But and I think like you can be a little harsh on yourself sometimes by trying to force yourself too much to hold to this getting everything locally. But where you can do it, it's a great thing to do. I mean, I'd say we're in a slightly different situation from Karen, in that because we're across different cities, the challenge for us is how do we find good suppliers that are taking the box on cake, but like coffee, basically. People get very passionate about good coffee and bad coffee. And if you try and cling too much to getting, local coffee, you might not be getting the coffee that people want to drink. But chances are across our, different cities, we can find a supplier that our members like, and that can be an independent supplier. Part of our B Corp certification is we try and use local providers or other B Corps or other, SMEs. And so, we then roll that out across our different buildings. The cake, to use the cake example, the cake comes from, it's either Cake Smiths or Bake Smiths. It's a cafe and a bakery. One is called Cake Smiths, the other is called Bake Smiths, and I love them both. But we use that across all of our runways because we tried it in Bristol, where they're from. The members loved it. There was less packaging, and we started to roll that out then across all of the buildings. So that's what we do with cake.
Yes, that's what I wanted you to start with. But thank you very much. That's a really good perspective. Thank you, Mr. Tom Ball. Do you do anything locally? What do you do in that
I
desk of
wasn't due to
slodgers?
speak about this, but I'll make something up. I do think that there's lots of different sort of sub bits within the sector, and there's big companies and there's small companies. Us indies would be stupid to throw that away. And actually, one of the things that you can do is to connect with people, and using local sandwiches, local cakes, etc. It's just a very simple way of actually tying yourself in. And I think it's something that the bigger people can do as well. But as a small company, you'd be foolish not to make all the bonds that you can with your members.
Yep. While we're here, can you talk about the kitchen and the apple in the fruit bowl, and how does the kitchen figure in your day-to-day connection process?
So zoom out slightly. I'm slightly nervous that people are going to go home tomorrow and tell their teams, you must put in more community. I think we need to cover off the fact there's quite a lot of decisions that you as owners have made that change what's possible. And an obvious one is how you actually lay out the space. If you have like a marble reception desk miles from the coffee machine, your team can't engage with your members. And actually, a lot of those small interactions, like your members getting cups of coffee, handing out free fruit, it's not really about handing out vitamins. It's about an excuse for your team to bump into the members and the members to bump into each other. And I think there's an intentionality that if you want to do community, you need to invest in it. And if you want your team to know your members, you've got to give them the time to do that, which means effectively you've got to overstaff versus not doing it. And I think, it's very easy to overlook that as something that just magically happens. But no, how you design the space, how you design your team has a huge impact on what they're able to do.
And Karen, if you were like that big kitchen island in the residence, why did you decide to put a big island in your kitchen rather than 72 desks?
That's a really good point, because I really could have monetized that space, that whole kitchen area. If you look at my website or my Instagram, you'll see that is the beating heart of the space. That is where the members collide in whatever capacity they are in that space, whether that's a private office, they're a virtual member, they are a desk pass, they're coming just for meetings. So it creates that collision space where people can go, hey, how are you? I haven't seen you here before. Did you see the football last night? Just those everyday, oh, that's a nice outfit you've got on. And that just breaks the ice for members in order for them to get to know each other deeply. And without that, I think that would be much, much harder as an operator to facilitate. I think you have to have some kind of framework around community. not everyone can be forced into community. Not everybody wants to live in a community, but many people do. So the ones that do, we create those clear pathways for them to do that, and it's usually over coffee and cake.
Usually, it's always cake. Always comes down to coffee and cake. Adam, when Runway East like lands in a new area, because Karen lives in that area and Tom sometimes lives in that area. How do you connect with? How do you embed yourself in the local area without colonising it?
Well, first thing to say is we try our best, but nobody gets it right all the time. What I've noticed, I mean, I've for Runway East, I've launched in 4 different cities.
Which 4 were they? Because there's a difference between those.
So exactly that's the point I was going to get to, is that what worked and what we learned a lot when we opened Bristol in 2018. It didn't translate when we then opened our second regional site in Birmingham a few years ago, and like none of it translated at all to Bath, which was a real eye opener, because I live in Bath and I had assumed that it would be just the same as Bristol, but it's really not. And all of these different cities, different sizes, different requirements, and ultimately a different ecosystem, both from a business point of view, but also from a flex market. And so the lessons that you learn, the only real lesson I can say I've learned from that and how to kind of launch and get on with the local community and don't be those dicks from London, basically, pardon my language, but is just try and speak to people and listen to people, and try and be a bit reflective on how things are going. And ultimately, you can try and support local organizations, and in Birmingham it was charities, and but it might typically be, I don't know, SME organizations, and you can't do much wrong if you're just trying to genuinely help, especially in that sort of quieter period.
What sort of ways do you help, like the Birmingham example? Because there's when you say like and listen to people locally, I kind of know what that means, but then if I had to write that down and send it to my staff, as one of those dicks from London, I wouldn't know what to do.
Well, I should say I was also one of those dicks from London. I live in Bath now. So using the example of Birmingham, when we opened in Birmingham, I spent a long time scratching my head saying, how can I connect with the local businesses and local organizations? And I had a vague idea that we could do something during the ramp-up period when we had a lot of empty space. I didn't know what that would be. I assumed, because this had been sort of kind of what we'd done in Bristol, that I'd connect with the local tech or startup ecosystem, and we'd try and get people in, and we'd maybe do some free hot desks or whatever it was. And it just didn't. It didn't fly. Those relationships already existed with other flex operators. They weren't really interested in. We had very friendly coffees and etc. But that support wasn't really needed. And when we had someone from, I met at an event someone from a charity, and they were like, you know what, I would really love. We don't have budget for an office space. I would really love somewhere to meet people. And we thought, well, okay, we've got an empty building, and we know it's going to be empty for the next 6-8 months, or we'll at least have space. So we started a scheme where we were offering free meeting space, initially throughout the week, but then as we got busier, we moved it just to Fridays for charities. And that was, we were pretty relaxed on how we sort of operated that, and actually that was the piece that people started to say, thanks, you're doing something here that's decent. It cost us pretty much nothing. The space was empty anyway, and honestly, we're all running businesses here. It looked great having people in the building, so I'd love to say well done to Runways for just being great altruistic people, but it worked for everyone.
It's what you call a win-win situation.
It's a win-win situation.
Win. Karen, I nearly said win-win there. How do you do that in your area? How do you help people use your space and connect?
We host a lot of networking, a lot of local networking groups, because predominantly they are our target customer, right? They're freelancers, small business owners, so they come into the space for a networking event, and then they're like, "Oh, this is nice. Oh, can I work here?" So I mean, that's just one of the ways, and obviously, I spend a lot of time going out into the community, the Federation of Small Business, the various events, the Chamber of Commerce, raising the profile of co-working and helping people who have never needed co-working understand what it is in the first place. Because, prior to me leaving investment banking, I didn't even really know what, I literally did fall into co-working, into Flex. I left investment banking, started my own business, and before you knew it, I was bored crazy at home. I wasn't meeting people. I was lonely. I was isolated, and I didn't really know what I was doing in my business. So, and I didn't find anywhere around me in the local area. And the rest is history, if you want to say. But also we offer a free trial day. No caveats. Come in, try us out, see if you like it. This is a place you'd like to be. We have a follow-up process with that. Some automations and. And even if they don't join us, they probably know 10 people who might like to join us. So it's as Adam said, it's cost us very little. We have a local charity that come once a week. Like you say, like they can't afford workspace, but it's really good for their team to get together once a week. It costs very little apart from some space.
Thank you.
I'd just add, having had spaces in different places, it's amazing to me how much it varies between different places. Basingstoke to Bristol might as well be different planets. So I think it does vary a lot depending on where your geography is. In Bristol, there's a lot of, it's very easy to give free space away, and we love doing it. It's a brilliant way of getting people in, of spreading the love, etc. But it's quite tricky to balance, and just I think operationally, there's a challenge between letting non-members use your members' space and having it there for the members, and so trying to balance that correctly, and also doing it in evenings and stuff sounds great, but then you've got a staffing issue, etc. And so we found that some communities work much better than others, and the best way we've done it is to do a couple with before committing to a longer chain, because we've done it before. We give someone commit for a year, and it turns out it's not working for us, and it didn't live up to the thing. But just trying to balance those.
Can I just add to that point, Tom? Yeah, because our free trial used to be any day of the week, and now it's just a Monday and Friday. Yeah, because I felt
so
like
ruthless.
So ruthless. But I think that there was it's balancing between what you're giving away and what has already been paid for. And yes, it's a lead magnet. Yes, it's a way for people to get to utilize the space and understand what to expect. But also, I have to balance that with occupancy and obviously monetizing the desks and making sure,
I'm going to be really naughty and do a reverse question. Can we get Freddie to share a bit on this when we get to the questions bit? Because I think he's doing some of the best stuff in terms of making it look like it belongs in the community. So when he launched in Gloucester, the people of Gloucester think it's their thing. And I think he's doing it better than I've seen elsewhere.
Which one's Freddie?
yes, please. Here, take mine.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll do it at the end. Oh, I'm on. Okay, I'll respond.
Do you want to say that now? Because otherwise you're going to come back to you and I'll forget,
You're the host. My mic's just on, so I feel awkward.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Freddie Ford.
You want me to go? Okay.
This isn't planned. Just
Okay. Am I on twice? Just once. So, sorry, the question was, how do we at Patch make people feel like we're part of the local community?
Yeah, I think you've done it very, very well when you land.
Okay, well, thank you. That means a lot. Seriously.
You make it look easy.
It's not.
I know it, yeah.
But serious point. I really mean it. Like, I'm really, really grateful to the people who've path-found before me. And when we set up Patch, guess what? I was all over you guys' websites and others. And it's like a genuine joy to be here on the stage with you. And as Andrea mentioned, right, it's a big thing that we're now in an industry where people are happy to share. I think the short answer. So I've got two answers on this. The first is you need to make the case internally to your own team, to your stakeholders, investors, whoever it is, that this also delivers commercial value. I know it delivers commercial value. I know it delivers social impact value. That's why I get out of bed in the morning. But being able to draw the link very carefully between, we do these good things, and guess what? We get more reviews. More reviews, people stay longer. They find us easier. Our cost of acquisition goes down, et cetera, et cetera. And actually plotting those things out gets you the buy-in that gives you the oxygen to then go and do more of it. And in terms of how we actually do it, we spend a very long time, probably about 6 months before we open in any location, trying to get to know as many people as we can locally. And there are some obvious business associations like the FSB that you mentioned. But like in Gloucester, I'm bezies with the Dean of the Cathedral. I buy gin that's named after his dog. Sorry? Women's Institute everywhere, actually. They seem to turn up to a lot of our that's actually different. They came to us. What's interesting is that's a different point about the brand that we project and people come to us. But we just spend a lot of time giving. I mean, it's to your point, right? We've got space, but like I think people notice it when you turn up. At one point, sort of 3 months into me being on the ground in Gloucester, I had kind of former councillors, former MPs coming up to me saying, "Oh, you were spotted again." And I help them like quite tall and like obvious. But I just think you have to put in the time. There's like no other way of saying it. Put in the time, speak to as many people as you can, bring them in, and just tell them the story. Why you're here, why you care, what you're passionate about. And honestly, like it takes 6 months, but then word gets around. Because they don't believe what you say, they believe it when they hear it from someone else. So I will sit down and have lots and lots and lots and lots of very impassioned conversations with, I don't know, 40, 50, 60, 70 people. My team will do kind of the same. So it'll be like a few hundred conversations we have. And 20% of those will really become advocates for us and then advocate within their communities, which then becomes a lead flow. Again, it's not why I do it, but making that link means that everyone's really bought into it. So yeah, passionate messages and just invest the time. And as you say, right, everywhere's different. There isn't a cathedral in Twickenham, yeah, or Grays in Essex, right? But there are equivalents.
Cheers, Freddie. Do you want to add something to that, Karen?
Yeah,
I can see your microphone twitching.
but when you are passionate about something, it's really very easy to relay that to other people. I could bang on all day about the values of co-working and how it can transform lives and businesses, and people that were lonely are suddenly less lonely. Some people that were struggling are suddenly not struggling, and that's the human element of co-working. And I think people in this room today and on the stage, I've shared it with, we are passionate about our industry, and I think that is easy for us to think is not useful, but it really is. And I think local co-working spaces, can facilitate success for a lot of people, including me. I love what I do, so I'd never do a day's work.
So I actually was on this stage 14 years ago pitching co-working before WeWork existed. And Alan Pepper, I've lost him now. Alan Pepper put his hand up and said, "Why would I do that? Why would I let individuals in when I make far more money out of companies?" Is that roughly fair? I've spent 14 years trying to prove the bugger wrong, and I'll say it now, he was mainly correct. It's a lot easier doing service office than doing co-working. Depends where you are. Exactly. I'm just picking on it. I've got reached exactly the same point. I love co-working. I have no interest in the serviced office side of this. I got into it because I love small businesses. I love co-working. I just want to say, having tried to prove Alan wrong and the accountants, it is hard work. So I don't think the conversation we're having and all of the lessons apply to each different business. And I think that there's some stuff that does apply and some that doesn't. But I think I'm right. Even Alan's buildings have got the islands where people collide in them. So some of this has come out.
Adam, you look ready to go.
Well, yeah, the thing that keeps coming out here is different things for different companies and different things for different places, right? Central London, you trying to do something that's really community focused in Central London. Well, I mean, good luck, and the requirements are different. And you might look at providing amenity in Central London, but in Bath, where we are, Karen, where you are, or Tom in Bristol, even still, there's more of a space and more of an opportunity to create something that is a win-win for not just you and the local business community, but also the wider community, especially kind of where you are. Bristol probably less so now. The busier the Bristol market gets, it's obviously come along. Tom, you're probably a better man to speak about that than I. But I do think different locations, different solutions, different answers.
How does the residency, like, not even I know you haven't got a program, but help young people in that area? Because there's kind of, do I go to university? Do I stay in Bishop Stortford? Like, I feel there's something there.
So we do a lot of work with the local schools. So I'll go into the schools and talk. I do I'm an entrepreneur in residence, which is kind of really weird given my business name is The Residence at the ARU in Chelmsford and Cambridge. So I work with young students, and we do a lot of work experience, and we've had some fantastic students come through, and it's really perfect for them to see, what the world of work looks like, and to access all these businesses that are in the space, from lawyers, from accountants, from creative people to startups. And I think it really enables them to see, just to ask the questions. We'll actually spend a lot of time with them before they even come in for the week and say, what are you thinking of doing? What would you like to do? What would that look like? And then we can create a program of events for them. And our members are so accommodating. I think they equally enjoy giving back to our younger generation. Lots of us are parents to children of that age. I wish I'd met someone like me when I was that age. So that's the mentality I take. And they usually go away pretty inspired. We get good feedback on that.
You just reminded me that I should have known this, but my niece did her work experience in a co-working space, and she couldn't believe she was working, and it was like 70% of the co-working space was like very strong women, and which is why I sent her there. And she couldn't believe that these people sat at their desks all day and ran businesses, like, even though she knew it existed. And I would like to finish that story that opened up a whole new career path for her, but she still went to university. But you were going to say something, Tom, and then Adam.
I love the win-win things, and just two quick examples. We've had a couple of companies where their Why Work For Us company page was 100% why work in a desk lodge building. All the things that they were raving about that they did, about engaging the local community, about fruit on a Wednesday, all of these different things was about us. So there is a business benefit, and related, there's we've found a number of occasions where people are more loyal to the building than to their company. There's been a number of occasions where a company moves away and their team reappear. And that's, again, if you think about logically, that's weird, the idea that you'd be more logical, but it just shows that you can create a magnet, a magical magnet, and these are the techniques we're talking about.
I've got a question that might be really difficult for me to articulate, because when you said about building community in central London, that I absolutely agree with. And this is a bit, there's like the Silicon Drinkabout gang in Old Street, and that happened, and then like there's something about translating that community into Bristol and Brighton, and how it all works.
Yeah,
in the sense of community.
So for anyone, I imagine very few of you know what Silicon Drinkabout was, but it used to be. Are you familiar with it? Were you ever there?
Who knows Silicon Drinkabout? Old school. Yeah.
There we are. So it essentially was a meetup where I was one of the London organisers. We'd meet every Friday for drinks after work, and the idea was that people who worked in tech, as it was at the time, would share the challenges they had over a beer, and we got a lot out of it, mostly hangovers, it has to be said, but we got a lot out of it, and it was very well received. That's the sort of that was in the sort of heyday of Old Street as the kind of tech hub, I guess pre-COVID, and that sort of thing, is more of a challenge, I imagine, in London these days. But we did actually start it in Bristol. I was one of the organisers in Bristol. There were already a lot of very strong events doing the same thing in Bristol, so it took off to a degree. But when COVID came, no one had any desire to to revive it afterwards in Bristol, because you know, and people's priorities had changed. I think where we as flex operators can provide the same thing. All right, yes, it might sometimes be drinks, it might be a party, it might be whatever, but actually it takes it back to what both Karen and Tom have both said about having that moment of colliding over an apple or whatever it is, or over some cake, or, you know, a coffee or a social event or whatever, creating that opportunity for those people to speak. Post-COVID, I would say that has been what has got, certainly, definitely in the initial years post-COVID, that's what got a lot of people back. And I think that's what got those people kind of happy about being in the office again, is because they're sitting and they're talking to people, they're making connections. And yes, they've got some to go to the pub with on a Friday.
Quick metric: if one of your teams, the boss announced they were moving out of your building, would the team be sad? If no, you haven't got it yet. And it's yeah.
I want to jump to when picture a time when your MP came to visit your thing. Is it James? No.
I've forgot his name now,
Yeah.
Jane.
Josh, same thing, you know. So when Josh came to visit,
Yeah.
so there was no like seamless break there. When Josh came to visit, what did that do for Josh and the space? And did you know him beforehand? And tell us the story there, Karen.
Oh. So, well, Jane asked me if I would reach out to, and I did, and he replied, and he came. I was blown away, actually. But he had been before when he was campaigning, so I think he felt like he owed me a duty to come back. But he actually was really, you know, very keen to listen, very keen to understand, and he tried to raise some questions. He's been back in touch. You know, I thought it was refreshing.
Do you think your local authority know what you do?
No,
No. And
they've got their own workspace.
okay.
Terrible.
I see this.
Launchpad.
How do you interface with your local authority?
Rarely.
Really?
Same.
Yeah, no, I've always got. I wouldn't say it's in any other room but this one. I get a bit cross that we pay higher and higher and higher rates, get literally nothing for it, and then they use that money to subsidise a shit competitor. Like, why are you doing this? Like, what?
That's so true.
Just give them a voucher, then come. Yeah, you're just distorting them. If you paid them money to do subsidised coffee that was shit, you go, why are you doing that? But the councils think they think that they should be good workspaces for local for small businesses, and then they come and clobber us all and try and shut us down. Like, it's either one or the other, surely.
And like not in a campaign manner, but like in a as an operator, like how could we rectify that situation? Is it what would you do?
Ignore the buggers.
Yeah.
I'm not
That's
sure
not the
what.
answer I'm looking for, Tom Ball. Yeah. Do you want to
They only invite me because I'm honest. I'm gonna.
Yeah. Well, that killed the question. So can you tell the story? I know it just popped into my head there, so I should have stuck with what we had. Can you tell the story about how you give space to people when they're like between jobs? Because that's a
Another win-win one.
Yeah.
I just noticed that fairly often in a community there are the doers. There's 50 people in your local community who are the ones that actually run around doing things, organising stuff, the unsung heroes. Fairly often they leave their previous job and their visibility and love goes down. Well, it's dead easy just to go, you've done so much for the community, here's 3 months free co-working, just come and use the place as, etc. It's a lovely way of thanking the people that do that. There's no skin off your nose. They're only going to be good people, and it's just a very, very simple thing that it's just dead easy to do.
Have you got an example of that?
I've literally just done that recently. So a friend of mine, Abby, has worked for a long time for a charity. She's between jobs. She reached out. She wanted to move into project management. My husband's a project manager. I was just like, let's come in and have a chat. And I could just sense that she was feeling that isolation, that what next? I've always, I'm like, just come in for a few weeks. Don't tell anyone else. But already she's committed to a plan because it's almost like leaving that door. When people leave us, they're not leaving us. They're just, if you let them go with love, they will come back when the time is right for them. And when circumstances change all the time, whether that be financially, jobs, where we live, you've had a baby, you've got married, moved away. But I think if you always let members leave with with love. They'll think of you fondly and want to come back when the time is right for them. I mean, obviously business is business, and business is sometimes hard to come by, and converting those members. But as I say, we had a member who left us for financial reasons and went to the Launchpad, the council space. And he actually remained in our WhatsApp group, and he was mercifully taken the mick out of. But he came back. But anyway, I think that's really important.
And Adam, have you got something like that?
Probably. The general thing I would just say, though, is there are plenty of opportunities, whether it's this or whether it's something else, to look for a win-win, something that works for you as a business, whether that's because it ultimately drives inquiries or whether it's because it helps your staff or whatever it may be. Maybe it just helps the vibe in the building, but also helps the local community, whether it's business community or wider community. There are loads of these opportunities, and even if you don't immediately see a huge benefit, but maybe you just see a bit of a benefit, or certainly you don't see any harm, just give it a go and do it. It costs nothing ultimately.
When people join, and you can say if what I'm about to ask you, if what you're about to say is more interesting than what I'm asking you, just go with that. But when people join your space, do you think how does it affect how they leave and come back? Like the ramping on, the introduction, the orientation.
I'd love to get tips on this over the break from other people, but because I think we were okay, but not great. So we do a proper tour with everybody on their first day. And show them stuff. We do check in with them, and then I believe there's a sequence of emails, but they're customized. They've got a template, but they actually do go in and go, "I hope your dog's okay." Those little things that make it personal. But I think we could do more. I'm not quite sure what it is yet. But we'll talk about different onboarding plans.
How about you?
Yeah, I'm with Tom on that, because I feel like over the last 9 years, because I've been a single founder, I ran the business single-handedly for 6 years. I'm not sure how, but I think that it's hard sometimes to articulate to new members what we know, and we feel like they should know it, but they don't know it. So like we're going through that bit of a process around how we onboard new members, how we bring them into the frame. Already established communities can be hard to move into, and I think that we're creating a framework around that, because the data shows that if you can get people past 90 days, they're lifelong members usually.
On the onboarding piece, and actually bring it back to a wider sort of local community piece, what we've found, and we've done this, I think, more successfully in the regions. What we found is partnering, or at least being extremely aware of local businesses that you can signpost people to. I'll give an example. When we opened in Brighton, we're just off, if any of you know Brighton, some of you definitely do, we're just off London Road. And on London Road, there is a lot going for it. There's a huge amount, but it's not in the lanes. So instantly you've got people who maybe don't know Brighton as well, don't know about it, bless you. So one of the first things we did when we were trying to sort of embed ourselves there was we met some local businesses, local pizzeria, found out where the good lunch places were, found out where the good pubs were, and even as far as, some places to walk the dog, stuff like that. And then we built a relationship, and we had for a while, there's a great pizza place in Brighton you should go, called Fato Amano. I think there's some in London now as well. But they set up a scheme whereby if we'd send people from Runway East to there, they'd give them a free pizza. And then, that got that pizzeria busier. It got us something to kind of brag about to our new members. Hey, go and get a free pizza. But it was another win-win. And it was part of the onboarding, and we built that in.
That's a great story.
A very quick one on onboarding. We're one of the few industries where we live with our customers. So we need them to put their cup in the dishwasher and don't use the booth by yourself. And so just a reminder to onboard the new employees as well as new companies, because a new person will start. No one in the company will teach them, so that helps as well, just to bring them in as an individual.
Karen Tate, there's 30 seconds left on the clock. Can you say something like really rude or really smart?
Something profound.
Yeah.
Will Arsenal win the Premier League? Yeah?
Yes.
Okay.
Kofi said yes.
I think it's always listening to your members, changing, adapting, rolling out new products. You know, I think you were talking about co-working with the gentleman from Ariga, and if I was to look at our revenue streams, day passes is our lowest margin, lowest revenue maker per month, because we have to build on recurring revenue. The offices sustain the business, but the co-working is where the fun happens.
The co-working is where the fun happens, Alan. All right. It may not be profitable or sustainable, but it's where the fun happens.
We're poor and happy.
Ladies and gentlemen, Adam, Tom, and Karen.